Polls.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And we thank you for being here, Barnaby.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're getting into something pretty specific, but really fascinating from a psychological angle. We're looking at how you persuade, well, let's say, skeptical, long-time mobile home park owners, MHP owners, to shift their mindset, away from that ingrained cash is king view towards embracing owner financing or seller carry.
Oh, it's absolutely fascinating territory because you're not dealing with typical corporate sellers here. These are often, mom and pop operators. Maybe they got 10 pads, maybe 120, but they've poured decades of their lives, real sweat equity into these places.
Exactly. Their whole sense of security, maybe even their identity, is tied up in this physical asset. So anything that sounds, I don't know, too clever or complex or delays that final payout, well, they're naturally wary, right?
Extremely wary. The default is inertia. Just grab the big check, put it in the bank, done deal. So the real challenge isn't just explaining seller financing mechanics. It's about fundamentally reframing things.
Reframing. How so?
You have to make that known quantity, the all-cash offer, seem like the riskier move, the less profitable one even. We're essentially trying to rewire their perception of what safe actually means in this context.
So making them feel not just okay, but actually smarter for choosing the financing route.
That's precisely it. That's the core of the negotiation. The unknown seller carry has to feel safer, more financially sound than the immediate cash. They need to grasp that maybe, just maybe, the biggest mistake they could make is taking that quick cash exit.
Okay, so for you listening, our mission today is to really unpack the psychology here. What are the core mental frameworks, the communication tricks, well, not tricks, but strategies that make this shift happen? We're digging for those shortcuts to trust, to financial clarity, ensuring the deal works well for everyone. The seller, obviously, but also the buyer, and importantly, the park residents, too. Right, let's tackle those mental hurdles. First up, a big one in decision-making. Loss aversion. We all know instinctively losing $100 hurts more than finding $100 feels good. How does that apply here when sellers think cash now is a guaranteed win?
You have to flip the script. It's not about the potential gain of seller carry. It's about the definite losses of taking all cash. You need to frame the status quo, the cash deal, as leading to actual measurable pain, financial pain.
Okay. So once they see their default path, the cash sale, as having a negative outcome, then they're motivated to look at alternatives. It's not about future opportunities so much as avoiding immediate financial damage.
Exactly. We talk about immediate financial hemorrhaging, not abstract future gains.
So let's make that concrete. Say I'm selling my 100-pad park. Maybe it's worth, I don't know, $3 million. If I insist on all cash, what specific losses are you highlighting?
The first, and usually the most shocking one, is taxes, immediate taxes. You take that $3 million lump sum, depending on your state, federal capital gains, you could instantly lose maybe 30, even 40% of your profit right off the top.
Wow. Okay. So that could be like $1 million just gone in that tax year.
Gone. A massive immediate hit. Seller financing, structured as an installment sale, changes that completely. You only pay taxes each year on the principal and interest you actually receive that year.
That's huge. That's the why lose 30-40% upfront argument.
Yeah.
It creates urgency because it's about avoiding that immediate painful financial outcome. Much more motivating than just talking about potential future earnings.
Precisely. And the second big loss, it's the loss of secure, predictable interest income. Where does that $3 million lump sum go? Maybe the stock market. That's volatile, adds new stress. Or maybe into something super safe, like a CD.
Right, and CDs pay, what, next to nothing these days.
Exactly, maybe 1%, maybe 2% if you're lucky. But with seller carry, they become the bank. They're locking in a fixed rate, often negotiated around, say, 5% or 6%, secured by the property itself.
So by taking the supposedly safe cash route, they're actually giving up maybe 3, 4, even 5 percentage points of guaranteed income every single year. On a multi-million-dollar note, that difference between 1% and 5%, that's a substantial annual loss, just because they avoided the perceived risk of financing.
That's the reframe. The cash sale isn't security. It's a sacrifice of stability and earning power.
Okay, that covers the financial pain points. Let's shift to the emotional side. Identity alignment. This is about more than just dollars and cents, right? It's about their self-perception.
Definitely. People buy into things, decisions that confirm who they believe they are. So we position seller carry as the choice that aligns with their best self-image.
How do you do that? What identities are we tapping into?
Well, there are usually two key ones for these longtime owners. First, the identity of the savvy, competent business person. Think about it. They've successfully run this complex little business for decades, carrying the note. That's framed as the ultimate insider's move, the smart play.
Ah, I see. So it's not just retiring, it's graduating.
Yeah.
You're moving from operator to financier. You become the bank, earning steady income like a pro investor. That strokes the pride, validates their years of experience.
It does. And the second identity, which is often just as important, if not more so for these folks, is the community steward. Many of them genuinely care about their residents, about the community they've built. A quick cash sale often means selling to some faceless corporation they fear will just jack up rents and cut corners.
Whereas seller financing lets them have a say in who takes over.
Exactly. It allows them to handpick a buyer, someone they vet, someone they believe will maintain the park's character, treat people decently. The financing becomes a tool to ensure their legacy is respected.
So they get to feel ethically good about the sale, protecting the community. That links to generativity, right?
Yeah.
Desire to leave something positive behind. The note lets them keep a guiding hand on the park's future.
It crafts a much more satisfying story for them. They aren't just walking away, they're carefully launching the next chapter on their terms.
That idea of legacy protection flows nicely into the next concept, the endowment effect, or honoring sunk costs. Because they've put so much time and effort in, they value the park way more than any appraisal. A simple cash sale can feel dismissive.
Absolutely. Like all those years of hard work are just being liquidated for a check. Seller Carry reframes it beautifully. The message becomes, your investment, all that sweat equity, it keeps paying you. Like getting reliable monthly dividends for all the years you put in.
It validates the struggle, the effort. And as you mentioned, there's that crucial safety net. The property itself is the collateral.
That's the ultimate psychological insurance. If the buyer messes up, they have the legal right to take the park back. It's not gone forever, not just turned into numbers on a screen. It's secured by the very thing they built. Maximum control, even after the sale.
Okay, wrapping up this section on trust building. Cognitive ease and credibility. You can have the best arguments, but if it sounds complicated, they'll shut down right.
Instantly. If it's full of jargon amortization schedules, lien positions, whatever their shields go up, trust requires simplicity. When information feels easy to process, what psychologists call cognitive fluency, it just feels more true, more credible, safer.
So ditch the financial jargon. Use analogies they get.
Exactly. Instead of typing complex loan terms, you say something like, think of it this way. You're basically swapping the headache of fixing leaky roofs for a predictable check that arrives in your mailbox every month, like clockwork. Simple, tangible.
Or compare the note to things they already understand and trust, like a retirement annuity or a pension.
Yes. Make the unfamiliar feel familiar. That immediately lowers their defenses and makes the whole idea of seller financing seem less scary, less unknown.
All right, we've covered the internal psychology. Now, how do we communicate this effectively? Let's talk strategy. Section 2.1, storytelling. Facts tell, stories sell. We've all heard that.
It's true because stories trigger something called narrative transportation. When you're absorbed in a story, your analytical brain quiets down. You start to feel what the characters feel. It's just much more persuasive than rattling off tax stats.
So the idea is to paint a picture. Maybe create a composite couple, Jane and Joe, who were skeptical at first, just like the seller might be.
Right. You walk the seller through Jane and Joe's journey. Their initial fears about seller carry, how they looked at the numbers, especially the tax savings, how they now enjoy this stress-free monthly income, peace of mind.
The seller listening identifies with Jane and Joe's initial hesitation, feels understood, and then sees a positive resolution. That builds empathy, maybe even releases a bit of oxytocin, the trust hormone, makes them more receptive.
Precisely. The story provides an emotional proof alongside the logical one.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. 2.2. Tribal alignment or social proof. This feels really important for these longtime owners. They trust their peers, right?
Absolutely vital. If you've run a park for 30 years, you care what other experienced operators think. You need to show that seller financing isn't some weird, desperate move. It needs to be positioned as what the smart, seasoned owners do. The respected path for a smooth, profitable transition.
So you're kind of inviting them into an elite club. Not just offering a deal structure, but offering social validation, aligning them with the group they respect, the savvy sellers.
Exactly. It's leveraging status, but respectfully. You might say something like, a lot of owners like you, folks who've really built something lasting, prefer this route because it gives them maximum control and the best financial outcome. You're framing it as the choice of the wise elders of their tribe.
Makes sense. Next, 2.3. Flattering pride and financial clarity. We touched on pride earlier, but here it's about acknowledging their creation before you dive into the numbers.
Yes, validate first, always. Start with something like, look, you didn't just run a business here, you built a community. That takes incredible dedication. Acknowledge that deep personal investment. Then, seller carry isn't just a payment option. It's presented as a testament to their wisdom, a shrewd move that protects their legacy and maximizes their return.
I like the idea of maybe using a touch of humor, gently poking fun at the alternative, like, sure, you could take the cash and a huge chunk to the IRS and wash your hands of it. But the really smart captains chart a better course, right?
That kind of respectful affirmation works. Then, for the financial clarity, you need those powerful analogies again. We mentioned the annuity, the pension. But the real knockout punch is that direct comparison. You're lending money at 5 or 6%, secured by this park you know inside out. Compare that to the 1 or 2% you'd get from a safe CD.
That contrast is stark. 5 times the return of the safe option, backed by their own asset. That makes seller carry feel less like a leap of faith and more like the obvious, superior investment choice. Okay, now we have to tackle the big beast, perceived risk. Section 3.1 is about the built-in safeguards and, interestingly, the win-win of default. Sellers are terrified of the buyer defaulting. How do you neutralize that fear?
It's almost always the #1 barrier, so you hit it head-on by emphasizing the seller's position of power. They hold the mortgage. They're in first lien position. The park itself, the tangible asset they built, is the collateral. They were fundamentally protected by their own creation.
Okay, first lien position, collateral. That sounds secure legally. But wouldn't the actual process of foreclosure, taking the park back, isn't that a huge hassle? Stressful, costly, time-consuming, especially for someone trying to retire?
That's a very fair point, and you have to address it transparently. Yes, legal action is never fun, but the reframe is critical here. If, and it's usually a big if, especially with a good down payment, but if the buyer defaults, what happens? 1, the seller keeps the substantial down payment, maybe 20–25%. 2, they keep all the monthly payments made up to that point. 3, they get the park back.
And the park might even be in better shape by then.
Often, yes. The buyer might have put in capital for improvements, upgrades, trying to make their investment work, so the seller potentially gets the asset back, improved, after having collected a significant down payment and months or years of payments.
So the worst-case scenario isn't total disaster. It's more like they got paid a hefty sum to temporarily let someone else manage their park, and now they get it back, maybe improved.
That's the win-win aspect, psychologically speaking. It transforms the fear of default from catastrophe into a manageable, even potentially advantageous outcome. They feel protected, not victimized by that possibility.
Okay, let's move to 3.2. Overcoming the status quo bias. That powerful inertia pushing them towards just take the cash. How do we disrupt that?
By showing the hidden risks in the cash option. We had to gently point out the uncertainties that come with suddenly managing a huge pile of money. Where does it go? Low interest account, inflation eats it, stock market. Volatility, stress, needing financial advisors, things they might not want in retirement.
Whereas the seller carry offers predictability.
Exactly. A fixed, secured rate, say 5%, coming in reliably every month for years. That offers certainty and simplicity that the big, scary lump sum doesn't. Plus, we have to keep hammering the tax point. Cash means a huge, immediate tax bill and the pressure to reinvest quickly and smartly. The installment sale smooths everything out, the income, the taxes, the stress.
So it's using behavioral economics, really, arguing that the seemingly simple choice cash actually creates more future complexity and risk. Seller carry, while seeming more complex up front, actually leads to a simpler, more stable future.
That's the core argument to dislodge that status quo bias.
Got it. Now, 3.3, mental safety nets. Specifically, liquidity and flexibility. Sellers worry about being locked into a long-term deal, right? What if they need cash later?
Big concern. So first, you remind them they control the terms. They don't have to agree to a 30-year note. They can negotiate a shorter term, maybe 5 or 7 years, with a balloon payment. Gives them an endpoint. But crucially, the note itself, it's an asset. It's sellable.
Ah, okay. So if they suddenly need a lump sum 5 years down the road, they're not stuck. They can sell that stream of future payments to an investor.
Precisely. It's not a prison. It's a performing asset they can liquidate if circumstances change. Think of it like a winning lottery ticket you can cash in when you choose. Provides a huge psychological out.
That really addresses the fear of being trapped. They get some cash up front, the down payment, steady income, and an emergency eject button if needed.
Exactly. And don't forget the benefit to the buyer here, which helps the seller too.
Oh.
Seller financing usually means avoiding the nightmare of traditional bank financing, the endless paperwork, the appraisals, the delays. That makes the deal close faster, smoother, which means the seller's preferred terms are more likely to be met and the deal is more likely to actually happen.
All right, let's get into the direct objection. Section 4.1 circles back to that fear of default, but now in a more direct objection handling context. How do you tackle it head on?
First, validate it. Always. You're absolutely right to be thinking about that. It's smart to consider the risks, shows you're listening and respect their concern. Then, you pivot immediately to the seller's control over mitigating that risk. They get to vet the buyer thoroughly. They demand a significant down payment, real skin in the game, maybe 20%, 25%. That buyer is heavily motivated not to walk away from that initial investment.
And you reinforce the safety cushion again. Keep the down payment, keep all payments made, get the park back. You mentioned comparing it to renting houses.
Yeah, that can be effective. Remind them of the risks they used to take renting homes, where default meant chasing a tenant for a few $100, maybe getting the unit back damaged. Here, the collateral isn't just a house. It's the entire multi-million-dollar park they already own and understand. It's vastly more secure. It puts the risk in perspective and restores their sense of control.
Okay, next major objection, 4.2. The big one, why not just take the cash and be done? How do you counter that fundamental pull?
Acknowledge the appeal of done. Then introduce the idea of seller's remorse. Gently suggest that many who take the quick cash later regret it when they see the tax bill and realize how much potential income they left on the table. Maybe mention anecdotes. I've seen sellers take the cash and a year later they wish they'd structured it differently when they see what their friend who did seller carry is netting.
This is where you really emphasize the buyer benefit that directly helps the seller get a better deal, right? The price.
Absolutely crucial points. Seller carry often allows the seller to get a higher price, closer to or even at their full asking price. Why? Because cash buyers almost always demand a discount, sometimes a hefty one, 10, 20%, because they have to arrange financing or deploy a large amount of capital immediately.
So if the seller provides the financing, they're removing the buyer's biggest hurdle. The buyer can then afford to pay more for the property itself.
Exactly. The seller essentially trades slightly delayed payments for a larger overall payout. They get their price, the buyer gets a smoother deal. It's a direct trade-off that benefits the seller's bottom line.
And you need that done with work, not done with earnings angle.
Yes. Reframe done. Seller carry means you're done with the hassle. Done with fixing things, collecting rents, dealing with tenants. No more operational headaches. But you are not done earning from the asset you built. You get a secure, passive income stream. It fits their desire to retire from the work, but not from the rewards.
Perfect. Finally, 4.3. Let's explicitly synthesize the benefits for everyone involved. Seller, buyer, park, residents, just lay it all out.
Okay, let's tick them off. For the seller, big tax deferral, much better interest income than alternatives like CDs, total control over the loan terms and who buys the park, usually achieving a higher sales price, and ultimate security with the park as collateral.
Good. For the new buyer.
A much, much easier and faster closing. They bypass the bank bureaucracy, the mountains of paperwork, the delays. This lets them potentially pay closer to the asking price, and they build a direct relationship with the seller, which can be valuable.
And crucially, for the park and the residents, how does seller financing help them?
This is about legacy and stewardship. Because the seller is financing the deal, they get to be incredibly selective about the buyer. They're not just taking the highest cash offer from anyone. They choose someone they trust to maintain the community, to treat residents fairly. They're essentially vetting the park's future manager.
And the seller retains leverage, right, through the note.
Yes. By holding the note, they retain the right to foreclose if the new owner lets the park seriously deteriorate or fails to make payments. It provides ongoing quality control, ensuring the community standards they established are more likely to be upheld. It prevents a quick flip or aggressive management purely focused on squeezing profits.
Okay, we've built the case, handled objections, shown the win-wins. Now, how do we gently nudge them towards making a decision? Section 5.1, ethical FOMO, fear of missing out, and opportunity cost.
You circle back to loss aversion one last time, but gently. You quantify what they stand to lose by sticking with the default cash option. Just thinking about it, you could be leaving potentially tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars in extra interest income on the table, plus facing a significantly larger tax bill immediately.
So it's not aggressive pressure, but a clear statement of the financial opportunity cost. Like, I'd hate for you to look back and realize you missed out on a safer, more lucrative path just because the cash felt easier initially.
Exactly. Focusing on the potential loss of inaction is often more powerful than focusing on the potential gain of action.
Next, 5.2. Inducing cognitive dissonance. This is about aligning their actions with their self-image. How does that work?
Well, if a seller strongly identifies as, say, financially prudent and protective of their legacy, you subtly highlight the conflict if they reject seller financing without fully exploring it. If they say, my legacy and my residence are paramount, but then lean towards a quick cash sale to potentially anyone, there's a dissonance there. You're giving up all control over that legacy.
So you point out that seller carry actually resolves that conflict. It allows them to be both financially smart and protective.
Precisely. It aligns their action, carrying the note, with their stated values and identity, savvy, prudent steward. There's an internal psychological pressure then to choose the path that confirms that positive self-image.
Okay, 5.3. Ethical scarcity. Using real market factors, not fake deadlines.
Right. Two key factors right now. First, interest rates. If current market rates are relatively decent, say 5–6%, it's a great time for the seller to lock that in as the lender. Rates could drop later, making it harder to get that return. It's a genuine window of opportunity for them as the financier.
And the second factor, taxes.
Taxes. Capital gains tax laws can change. Locking in an installment sale under current, potentially favorable, rules provide certainty and spreads the liability. Waiting could mean facing a higher tax rate later if laws shift. It creates legitimate urgency based on the current economic and political climate.
Makes sense. Finally, 5.4. The exclusive club nudge. A final bit of framing.
Yeah, a little final reinforcement. You frame choosing seller financing as the elevated decision. It's the move for owners who understand the nuances, who want maximum control and maximum return. You might say something slightly flattering like, this approach isn't for everyone. It's really for sellers who want to intelligently manage their exit, inviting them to that round table of sophisticated sellers.
So it connects the action, signing the note, directly back to that positive identity. I'm smart, I'm in control, and this is what smart, in-control owners do.
Exactly. By the end, the goal is that they're not just thinking, maybe seller financing could work, but rather, seller financing seems like the clearly superior, smarter path for me. Fears addressed, ego stroked, financial benefits clear, legacy protected.
That is a fantastic, really deep breakdown of the psychology at play here. It shows how seller financing, when framed correctly, isn't just a financing tool, it's a strategy for security, control, legacy, and frankly, potentially a better financial outcome for the seller.
That's the core shift, isn't it? It moves from being perceived as a risk to being perceived as the ultimate tool for control and security. It's all about managing those perceptions, addressing the fears with concrete answers, the collateral, the tax benefits, the liquidity, the control over who takes over.
So here's our final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. If you spent decades building a really significant asset, something tangible like a mobile home park, what's the real risk? Is it taking the time to carefully structure a secure installment plan that likely maximizes your long-term return and protects your legacy? Or is the bigger risk actually taking that seemingly easy, all-cash exit, only to immediately face the huge tax hit, the stress, and the uncertainty of how to safely reinvest that massive sum in today's world?
Yeah, it really makes you think, doesn't it? Does walking away quickly actually create more problems down the road than it solves? Something to consider.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
We hope these insights give you a new lens for understanding these kinds of complex, emotionally charged negotiations. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.